The story is about the poor rat trap seller. The whole world is a rat trap. People get so very tempted to touch the richness of the world. Impenetrable prison from where he could not escape. He wanted the peddler to leave his house at once. That the thief was none other than the stranger himself. Today is 15th August and we celebrate independent India. Today sparks the spirit of patriotism in each of us. Our national flag flies high and in pride we scream aloud to say we are proud Indians. This Independence Day is quite different from the ones with our previous experiences. Our country has faced multiple challenges for the past few months. I am not saying about the present pandemic, which of course has changed the course of our livelihood. Apart from the pandemic, our country is going through a lot of social unrest, and we have forgotten the very people who have built this nation. It's important to remember to realize that we all belong to the same country. It's important to realize why our country is built, and it's important to realize that we all come together to work for the betterment of the country. So how do we do it? We should actively work in making changes towards our lifestyle and the outlook towards the fellow citizens for a social betterment of the country. This doesn't mean to say that we celebrate Independence Day today and the rest of the day fades off. We need to collectively move forward, keeping the glorious culture, keeping the glorious tradition, and collectively being responsible in applauding the Indian ethos that brings pride in our self-esteem. To all my lovely students out there, a very happy Independence Day to you from all of us at Prep School. Today's topic, Chapter 4 from your Flamingo textbook, The Rat Trap. So let's see what does the lesson teach us about. I will be discussing in today's session these topics, the author and the title, the theme and the significance, what is the moral, what are the characters, what are the expressions in the textbook, a short summary followed by the question and answers and the conclusion. So moving forward, let's see who is the author of the lesson, The Rat Trap. The author, Selma Lagerlöf. She is a Swedish story writer. All the stories that she writes, it's in Swedish language, but later it gets translated to many other languages. Yes, she is a Nobel Prize winner too. So what is that she tells us in this lesson, The Rat Trap? She tells us that kindness and love can change any kind of human being. So let's quickly look at an overview of the story, The Rat Trap. This story is all about a poor rat trap seller who sells rat trap to make his living. Alongside, he is into begging and thievery too. And throughout, there are few thoughts that run in his mind. So understand that the story is about the poor rat trap seller who sells rat trap to make his living. Moving forward to the significance, it says, experiences and difficulties make one learn better. Yes, it is true that out of our own experiences, out of the difficulties that we have faced, we have always learned better in our lives, isn't it? So the significance, experience and difficulties makes one learn better. Next, to the theme. Kindness and trust is the main theme of this lesson, along with companionship and community. Every human being needs a companion. Every human being needs a community to live. So with kindness and trust and companionship and community, the lesson, the rat trap, revolves around the theme. Moving forward to the message. What is the message of the lesson? It says that human beings are prone to fall into the trap of material benefit. It is that every human gets attracted to some material which benefits him in his lifetime. He gets cling to that and he starts living his life with that only. So that being the message, what is the moral of the story? He has the capacity, the human beings have the capacity or has the tendency to redeem himself from a honest way. Let's look at the conclusion of the lesson. Every human being has got an essential goodness that can be awakened through understanding and love. So that being the conclusion, moral and the message, let's look at who are the characters in the story. The first one being the peddler himself. He doesn't have a name here, but he is the hero of the story. The peddler, he is the protagonist of the story. Followed by the crofter, who is an old man. So what do you understand by the word crofter? I hope you know croft means it's a farmland which is taken for a particular period. It is taken on tenure for a particular period. And the person who runs that croft is called as a crofter. And here is a retired old man. Next, you have an iron master. The iron master who works in an iron factory. His main business is to bring out good iron to the city or the village. So he is also an old man and he is known by the name the Iron Master. And the last character is Edla Williamson. She is the daughter of the old Iron Master. So the daughter of the Iron Master is Edla Williamson. So the four characters being the peddler, the crofter, the iron master and Edla along with the blacksmith in the story, let's look at what is the story all about. The title very clearly says Rat Trap. Okay, rat is a mice and trap is a cage where we catch the rat. So why is the lesson named the Rat Trap? That's because the narrator or the hero in the story feels that the whole world is very unkind to him. It's been just a trap wherein it shows a lot of wealth, lovely forest, lovely seas, vast sky and everything in rich. But by then you go to catch it, you are trapped. So he feels that the whole world is a rat trap. That being the title, let's move forward to understand what is the story about. I have divided your lesson into subtopics. To start with, an introduction or summary. What are the experiences of the protagonist? And there are few conversations between the protagonist and the Iron Master or Edla. So let's touch upon that and what is the conclusion of the story. So before we get into the text, understand the expressions in the text. The first one being keep body and soul together. What do you mean by that? Keeping your body and soul together is to manage to keep alive or to manage to survive. The next one being plods along the road. What do you mean by plods along the road? Moving slowly on the road but deliberately. There is a reason why one is moving slowly. So here is plodding along the road selling the rat traps. The next one being impenetrable prison. A place where you cannot come out. A impenetrable prison, a impassable confinement. So here the protagonist is in a forest where he cannot escape, is completely lost. So there you get to see impenetrable prison. Moving to the next expressions of the lesson, eased his way means came out of some difficulties. slowly he has come out. So, moved himself slowly and carefully to come out of some difficulty. That is, eased his way. The next one, things have gone downhill. Things are not fine with you. You are not in that level where you would be. You have drastically come down. That means you have grown to worse. So, things have gone down means to grow worse. And the next one, hunger gleamed in his eyes. It's very simple for you to understand that in one's facial expression, when you can see that someone is hungry, that means to say hunger gleamed in his eyes. Facial expression says that the person is very hungry. The next one, unwanted joy. Unwanted joy means unusual pleasure and happiness. Moving forward, nodded to a haughty consent. What is nodded to a haughty consent? It is not a very nice approval, a very arrogant, a very aggressive approval. The next one, fallen into a line of thought. Fallen into a line of thought means you're stuck with some thought. You're going with few thoughts beside you. So you're stuck with an idea. So these were few of the expressions that you get to see in your textbook. Yes, and I suggest that you are familiar with the expression. The next, let's get into the summary of the lesson. Have a look at this. What is a rat trap? You see here, there is a cage and also you see the rat. So a cage is kept for a rat to be trapped. So that is called as a rat trap. Now how do you trap the rat? The rat will simply come, is it, to inside and get caught there? No. So you need to keep something which is attractive, something which attracts the rat to come inside. So you keep some food inside the cage. So that food is called as the bait. So looking at the food, the rat smells something exciting, smells something attractive, and it tries to come inside to have its food. So what happens? The rat comes inside to have its food and the cage closes. Thus, the rat is trapped inside, and thus the name the rat trap. So look at this. The story is about a peddler who is the central character. He sells small rat traps. He makes them by himself by using the wire. So he makes them by himself. Now, what does he do other than this? He also begs in stores and in big farms. So he is a beggar also. But is it a profitable business for him? No, it is not at all a profitable business for him. So what does he do alongside? He does thievery. He's got into thievery also. It's important that you need to know that the peddler is a seller of rat traps. He makes his own rat traps, and then he's into begging and he's into thievery also. Moving forward, have a look at how does the peddler look like. So a small description of the peddler. He is wearing torn clothes. That means he wears clothes of rags. He has a very sad face and he has a monotonous life. Monotonous life means what? Every day it is the same life. There is no change in his life. And he has got sunken cheeks, means his cheeks have gone inside. He is quite skinny. You can see bones in him. That means he is in hunger and not able to feed himself well. So he has sunken cheeks. His eyes gleamed with hunger. The very statement says that he is in need of food. And he was on his own meditation. Your meditation is not that you sit in a yoga pose and then you meditate. His meditation is he's got his own thoughts about his lifestyle. So let's look at what does he want to tell us. Fell into the line of thought. That means constantly he is in a line of thought. So what are those thoughts? What is that he thinks while he's selling the rat trap, or is into thievery, or he's in a begging mode? What runs in his mind? Let's see. The thought is so very entertaining for him. Even though he lives a sad life, what runs in his mind that gives him a lot of entertainment and a lot of time pass. That comes very naturally for him without even thinking. That thought is very natural. And suddenly he gets stuck with some ideas. With the thoughts running, he suddenly gets attached to some ideas. The world with lands and cities and seas. He sees the world around him with huge cities, beautiful forest and land and vast seas, but that becomes meaningless to him. That was nothing to him but a big rat trap. He says the world around him, the world which he sees, was nothing material for him. He says that that is a very big rat trap. So why does he say this? Moving forward, have a look at this. The world is a big rat trap. There is an image here which clearly says what the peddler wants to say. He says that the world is a big rat trap. So considering this as a rat trap, you see the human beings who get attached, who get attracted with a material interest. It could be money, it could be wealth, it could be richness. The human beings get attracted towards it and then they get trapped there. Some might be for one's own good, but some might go through the worst phase in life. So that is why the peddler says the world is a big rat trap, because whatever richness he sees around him is of no use, but he feels that he is trapped into that richness. So just see here, why does he say so? He says that nothing exists for any purpose. There is nothing which existed for any purpose in his life, but he feels it set baits for people. For all the people around, the richness in the world has become a bait. Bait is what? It is a food. It offers richness, joys, shelter, food and clothing. Yes, it does offer richness, joy, shelter, food and clothing. Thus, it is referred to as the rat trap, offering cheese and pork. Now, people get tempted to touch the bait. People get so very tempted to touch the richness of the world. And after that, what happens? They get closed and everything ends there. So this is exactly what he says when he means to say that the world is a big rat trap. Moving forward, he also says the world is very unkind. This huge world has been very unkind to him. So why does he think that the world is unkind? That's because he is very unhappy and he feels many people are also unhappy along with him. Now why does he feel that he is so unhappy in his life? That's because the world has never been kind to him. The thought that the world has never been kind to him keeps coming back again and again. Due to that, he gets unwanted joy, and that cherishes in his mind while he is plodding in the street. Plodding is walking in the street selling his things. He also feels that there are many people still left behind who have not been trapped in this rat trap. The people are yet to be trapped, or they're already been trapped, and few of them are just circling around the trap for the bait and yet to be trapped. So that is why he is unhappy, thinking about the thought that the world is unkind and many people will or are already in the trap of this bait. So this is his regular thought that is knitted in his mind. And from morning till evening, he's on the street either selling, or sometimes he robs, or sometimes he begs. So it was one evening that it was very late and he looked for some shelter. So he goes to a house and knocks at the door. An old man comes out and opens the door. So do you think the door that he knocked for shelter opened and he was accepted? Let's have a look at it. There lived an old man in that house who was all alone without children and without wife. So did he accept the peddler? Did he allow the stranger to get inside his house and give him shelter for a day? Let's have a look at it. Now, the peddler asking for shelter, he landed at one dark evening, trudging along the road. Trudging means going beside the road, knocked for shelter for one night. The owner was an old man. He was all alone and he did not refuse. The face of the owner was not sour, like somebody comes, oh my God, should I take him inside or not? So the owner never had a sour face and did give shelter. So you need to understand that the peddler, as he was walking one late evening, he knocks at somebody's door and there lived an old man, and the old man accepts the stranger or the peddler and gives him shelter. Why do you think that the old man allowed the stranger to come into his house? Why did he agree to give shelter to him? That's because the old man himself was all alone and he was in a state of loneliness. He was so excited in his lonely life when someone came and knocked at his door. He wanted them to come inside so that he will get somebody to talk. He will get somebody to sit and have food and pass that little time. So he speaks about himself. What is his living? Have a look at this. The old man's confidence. He says to the stranger that back then, when he was young and when he was youth, couple of years back, he was very, very prosperous. He used to work in a Ramsojo iron works. Ramsojo is an iron factory. So the old man back then was working there. He also would work on the land in a day labor, and thus he would make a lot of money. Now, since he is quite old, the only thing that supports him is this beautiful cow. He says that she's so beautiful but extraordinary and very bossy too. So she gives creamy milk and he makes money out of it. So he says that this beautiful cow was his companion and that was his living. And also while he was talking, the old man gets up from his chair, goes to the window. There is a pouch hanging and he shows that small income. He had a little money in that pouch. So he shows to the stranger in happiness and says that this is my earning now. You need to refer page number 33 and 34 for further conversation. So moving forward, there is this generosity shown by the old man. He serves the stranger porridge, bread and great supper. After that, he sits with him and starts playing card game. That way, they get to know each other and it is time up, they go to bed. So look at the hospitality of the old man. He serves supper. He keeps the porridge pot, the big porridge pot on fire. He makes big bread slice and also he plays card. The name of the card is My Jollies. It was time to bed and both of them get up and they go to bed and they stay overnight together. So the next day what happens? The old man is up very soon. Just because the owner or the host is up, the stranger also gets up in the morning quickly and gets ready. So what does the old man do? The old man goes out of the house to milk the cow, and the stranger feels that it is time for him also to leave the place. So both of them get dressed and move out of the house. The old man locks the door and he goes to the cow for milking, and the stranger thanks the old man and he leaves the place. A little later, what happens? So what happens? A thief is always a thief. The stranger comes back to the locked house. I told you the owner is away to milk his cow. The stranger puts its hand through the window, picks up the pouch which had 30 rona. Rona is a currency, the Swedish currency. So he takes that money, that hard-earned money which the old man had shown him the previous night, that was a saving. So he picks it up and then he leaves the place. He fled from there. Okay, so habits never die. A thief is always a thief. So with a lot of happiness, he picks it up and he fleds from that place. So what happens after that? The stranger, the peddler, is very happy that he is richer with a little money. So he carries that along and then he walks on the highway. As he was walking, that fear builds in him and he feels that it is not the right path for him to walk. He takes a turn, he takes a deviation and gets into the woods. Woods here is the forest. So he was pleased with his smartness that he has stolen the money and he is rich now. He continued to walk in the public highway and then turned off to the road. He got into a very confusing forest. So what happened there? The forest was so thick, it was so confusing. In the beginning hours, he had no difficulty at all. But later on he realized that he is walking again and again on the same way. He is walking in the same path. So this peddler is now in the forest, very happy but confused and a little bit scared also because he doesn't know the path. So let's see what happens in the forest. He is lost in the forest. What does he see in the forest? Earlier, it was bright, it was day. He could see forest, logs, trees and everything. And then later in the hours when it became dark, what happened? He did not know how to come out at all. He was so confused because he realized that he was walking on the same path. So what happens? The forest was with trunks, branches and fallen logs. The darkness was already descending. He felt very dangerous. Danger increased and his gloom and the face and the despair came down. Recalled his thoughts of the rat trap and the world, that thought which he used to always have about the rat trap and the world. It came back to him and he thought that he was caught in a rat trap and he felt that he was trapped in it. He was trapped in the forest and it was like a impenetrable prison from where he could not escape. So it was like an impenetrable prison. From there he could not escape. What happens after that? He loses all his hopes. He is dead tired. No food, nothing to drink, state of confusion, lost all his energy and then he fell on the ground. It was then when he fell on the ground, he could hear some noise. Some noise was coming back. What was that? He saw no way out of the forest. He sank down on the ground. He was very tired. He was tired to death. He thought he lost his life for a moment. But what happened after that? He lay on his head on the ground. He could hear some hard thumping sound, something was beating. He had no doubt. He thought there is something is living around. So what was that thumping noise? So what does he do? He got up with all the strength and staggered in the direction of the sound. Moving forward, what happened while he went there? What did he see? He saw a factory, a ironworks factory. That was Ram Sojo's ironworks factory. It is of course closed now, but what did he see then? He saw the large plant with smelter, rolling mill and the forge, everything that is connected with the ironworks, and loaded barge with sculls would flow. All the unwanted polluted water that would flow through the canal leading to an island lake. And then the roads near the mill was black with coal dust, because the ironworks does use a lot of charcoal, isn't it? So the dust flies over and the roads were all dark due to coal dust. Moving forward, he stands at the gate of the ironworks. What does the peddler do? He goes to the gate and he stands there for a while, thinking that somebody will call him in. Further, there is a blacksmith in the ironworks. He notices a man near the gate and he thinks that it is usual the beggars or the vagabonds who generally come looking for water or shelter, or even sometimes who warm themselves in front of the fire. So dear children, what you need to do is open your textbook page number 35 and please go through it. I have shortened it, but you get to see a detailed story in this page. So the blacksmith sees him and ignores him. But the stranger has come there. Why? To ask for shelter, to stay overnight. So moving forward, you see an iron master. An iron master who is a very dedicated employee in the ironworks. So a short description about him. He is a very prominent and he has great ambition. What is his ambition? To ship out good iron to the market, for which he works. He works dedicated nights and days. He watches the peddler closely. What does the iron master do? As the peddler is walking near to him, he watches him closely. It's once again important that you open page number 35 and you continue reading. Now it's very interesting. The climax is here that the iron master, when he sees the peddler, he mistakes him with an old acquaintance, with an old associate who had worked in the iron factory earlier. So the iron master, looking at the peddler, he mistakes him. So let's look at what is the conversation they have after that. Have a look at it. But of course it's you, Nils aloof, how you do look. The man with the Rattraps had never before seen the ironmaster of Ram Sojo and did not even know what his name was. But it occurred to him that if the fine gentleman thought he was an old acquaintance, he might perhaps throw him a couple of rona. Therefore, he did not want to undeceive him at all. Yes, God knows things have gone downhill with me, the peddler said. You should not have resigned from the regiment, said the ironmaster. That was the mistake. If only I had still been in the service at that time, it never would have happened. Well, now of course you will come home with me. To go along up to the manor house and be received by the owner like an old regimental comrade? That, however, did not please the tramp. The peddler said, No, I couldn't think of it. For which the ironmaster says, Please don't think that I have such a fine home that you cannot show yourself there. The ironmaster leaves the place. Dear children, refer page 36-37 for a detailed reading. Little later, the daughter of the ironmaster, Edla, she comes to the ironworks and she says, My name is Edla Williamson, said the young girl. My father came home and said that you wanted to sleep here in the forge tonight, and then I asked permission to come and bring you home to us. "I'm sorry, Captain, that you are having such a hard time." She looked at him compassionately with her heavy eyes, and then she noticed that the man was afraid. Either he had stolen something, or else he has escaped from jail, she thought, and added quickly, "You may be sure, Captain, that you will be allowed to leave us just as freely as you came. Only please stay with us over Christmas Eve." She said in such a friendly manner that the Rattrap peddler must have felt confidence in her. He replied, "It would never have occurred to me that you would bother with me yourself, miss," he said. "I will come at once." Refer page 38. The peddler is taken to the ironmaster's house by Edla. So what happens there? First of all, we must see to it that he gets a little flesh on his bones, and then we must see that he gets something else to do than to run around the country selling rat traps. It is queer that things have gone downhill with him as badly as that. The daughter says, "Last night I did not think there was anything about him to show that he had once been an educated man." For which the father replies, "You must have patience, my little girl. As soon as he gets clean and dressed up, you will see something different. Last night he was naturally embarrassed. The tramp manners will fall away from him with the tramp clothes." So that was a bit of conversation. You please continue reading, referring pages 38-39. So you have seen the conversation between the iron master and the peddler, between Edla and the peddler, and between the iron master and daughter Edla. Now what happens as they were in the dining room? The peddler, who had a proper bath and who was dressed up, looks very different. So he enters. He is well groomed now. So let's see what is it. Both of them, the father and the daughter, are very amazed to see the peddler. The door opened, the stranger entered. Ironmaster realizes that he has recognized him wrong. The ironmaster to see a new face, and what he saw yesterday, that he thought that he was his old acquaintance, was completely false. He had mistaken. It was not the person whom he thought he had recognized the previous night. So he wanted the peddler to leave his house at once. He did not want the stranger to stay there. And he condemns him to say that he has cheated him by coming home. So the peddler is very apologetic. The peddler says that it wasn't his mistake. He did not want to come home. He had come to the factory to take shelter, to stay back there for one night, but it is Edla and the ironmaster who has dragged him. So he says, if the ironmaster is recognizing him wrong, is it his fault? So children, once again, refer page number 39 to read further what is it in detail. Now what happens after that? The ironmaster wants the peddler to leave the house at once, then only. This does not go well with Edla. She is very unhappy. So why is she unhappy? She feels that any human who is invited to their house, or any human being called for a Christmas Eve, or who is brought home out of their own will and wish, cannot be put out. So what is it with Edla? She was very happy and excited. Why? Because she had a stranger who had come home. She had a guest. Since it was a Christmas Eve, she wanted to cook and serve food for a poor man. She wanted him to be happy. She wanted him to have some cheers in the Christmas. She did not believe that a human who is invited home can be just asked to leave. So have a look at it. She wanted to cook food for the poor hungry man. She knew that it was a mistake not by the person, but it was a mistake of her father to have wrongly recognized him and brought him home. So that's the reason she did not want him to leave. She did not want a human being who has to come home to be chased out. And then she wanted to give Christmas cheers to him. So that day, all three of them have food together and they spend the night together. The next day morning, before that, children, please read the page number 40 so that you will get to know in detail. So what happens the next day morning? The father, ironmaster, and Edla go to the church for Christmas. So it is Christmas. Next day morning, they go to the church for their prayers. What happens there in the church? They get to know that an old crofter had lost his money. A stranger had come to his house, and in the version of giving shelter to him, the next day he realizes that his money was stolen and the stranger was not to be found. So this connects Egla and the ironmaster to the stranger whom they have in their house. They start suspecting and they are left with no doubt, but they're very, very sure that the thief was none other than the stranger himself. So that fear builds them because they also have a lot of silver items and a lot of precious things in their house. So they run back home. So that was the climax. The next day morning, the peddler was still sleeping. Father and the daughter go to the church. They get to hear that the old crofter of ironworks had been robbed by a man who went around selling rat traps. So further what happened, I told y'all, they go back home to check out what is the status at home. So what happens when they get back to their house? It is just cry of joy. The rat trapper is no more at home. What do the ironmaster and Egla get to see? Have your attention on the board. Honored and noble Miss, since you have been nice to me all day long, as if I was a captain, I want to be nice to you in return, as if I was a real captain. For I do not want you to be embraced at the Christmas season by a thief, but you can give back the money to the old man on the roadside who has the money pouch hanging on the window frame as a bait for wanderers. The rat trap is a Christmas present from a rat who could have been caught in this world's rat trap if he had not been raised to captain, because in that way he got power to clear himself. Written with friendship and high regard, Captain Von Sutley. So Edla cannot find the rat trap seller, but she sees a letter which is left behind. A very emotional, a very touching letter, which says that the money has to be returned to that person who had kept it as a bait for a rat trap and how he was rat trapped. And he signs off himself as Captain Sutley. That's because Edla had treated him like a captain. So out of the kindness, out of the love, out of the companionship that the peddler got from Edla, he changed himself. He changed the whole outlook of himself and he was reformed. From thievery, he came into honesty to return the money. So knowing the story of the rat trap, how a thief was reformed into a honest man, let's also look at the different words in which the protagonist or the hero of the story is referred to here. We call it the label words. Have a look at it. He is called a peddler because he was selling rat traps. And then he is a vagabond because he has no place for his own. He keeps moving from place to place like a nomadic lifestyle. And then is also referred to as a stranger because there is no identity, no name, no recognition, and is an unknown man to everybody. So he is a stranger. And then he is also a guest. Because he is invited to Edla's house, he becomes a guest there as an invited guest. And also he is an intruder. That's because he's trespassed, he's gone back to the crofter's house and he has stolen the money. So you see him in different names: peddler, vagabond, stranger, guest, and an intruder. Some more to go. Have a look at it. He is a tramp. Tramp is what? Somebody who has got no home. So he is known as a tramp also. And then he is a ragamuffin. That is, he is wrapped in rags. He doesn't have proper clothes but is dressed in rags. So he is a ragamuffin. And then he is the old regimental comrade. Edla was, by mistake, Edla and the father, that's the iron master, mistakes him as the old regimental comrade. So he is given a mistaken name also there. Moving forward, since he is weak looking, he is called as the poor hungry man or the poor hungry wretch. So that's because he was looking too very weak. Lastly, he calls himself as the rat. He calls himself as a rat because he's someone who's been trapped in a rat trap. So he calls himself as a rat because he's trapped in a rat trap. So moving forward, what is the conclusion of the lesson? We conclude that the essential goodness of a man can be awakened through love and understanding. The next one, being compassionate and kind helps a human to get reformed. Just by being compassionate and kind, anybody can be refined. Lastly, to conclude, to be grateful is a great virtue of a gentleman. To be grateful is the biggest virtue of a gentleman. So that being the story of the rat trap, let's move forward to understand what are the questions that you can expect. As usual, your short answer questions which are for 2 marks will be crofter's nature and his hospitality, and then the idea of being world is a rat trap. Why does the protagonist call the world as a rat trap? And then who brought the change in the peddler? Who was that who reformed the peddler? Iron Master. Why did he invite the peddler home and how did he invite? The peddler knocks at the cottage by the roadside. Why? Where does he go? Whom does he meet? What happens then? Then Edla pleads with her father. What does she plead? What does she request? Okay, and then what is the content of the letter? That's important. So these are few of the short answer questions. Moving forward to the long answer one, Edla is more persuasive than father dealing with the peddler. So you need to justify this. And then elaborate how the peddler was caught in the world of rat trap. It is very simple for you to write with examples. And peddler declined the invitation of the iron master. Why? Why did he not accept the invitation? But he accepted the invitation of Edla. Why is it? And lastly, highlight the impact of compassionate and understanding on hidden goodness in humans. So these being few of your long answers, what is that important right now? I have told you all, I have not touched line to line in the lesson. It's important for you to open your text and then read the lesson. That will make you understand better. That's it for today. To conclude, I hope you have understood the lesson, the rat trap. Please read the lesson from the textbook so that you will be able to answer any kind of questions that are asked. Once again, happy Independence Day to you. Have a lovely day. Remember, respect your country and nourish it as well. See you in my next session, A Thing of Beauty. Until then, all smiles to you. Jai Hind.